everyone. I'm Richard Fredrickson, and welcome to another profile. We have as our guest today Jim Capparelli, who is the Joliet City Manager. Jim, first of all, thank you for your service, and welcome to Joliet.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time out today to talk to me. Appreciate it.
Now, this is 2021. This is the month of March. We're just a few days away from St. Patrick's Day. But let me ask you this, Jim Capparelli. I got a lot of questions here for you. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Why in the world, I'm going to skip ahead because I know all about a bit about your family, but you're a Chicago guy,
Correct.
Right? Why in the world would you come out to Will County?
Well, I started out in Will County as when I graduated law school, I took a job at the state's attorney's office as a prosecutor. And then once I did that, I seen what the city had to offer here. I liked it out here. I liked the people. I feel very at home here. It feels very Chicago, Southside Chicago, my neighborhood. I have fantastic neighbors. I live right here in Oneida, and I really love it. And it has so much to offer here. I think the city of Joliet is a growth city, and it's just so exciting to be here, to be part of this. I'm grateful for that.
It is an exciting time to be here in Will County in Joliet, despite the fact that we've gone through a whole year of this pandemic. That's for another chapter, another time. We'll talk about some of that maybe later on. You mentioned you're from Chicago. Family of law enforcement officers. Your dad was a Chicago police officer?
Yes, my dad was a Chicago police officer for 30 years. My brother Tim was just retired as a sergeant from the Chicago Police Department, and my brother John was also a detective on the Chicago Police Department. He's just recently retired. So that's my family.
Were they also all in the military?
No, I was the only one that went in the
military.
Really?
Interesting.
Yes, they all went.
Interesting. The only one in the military and the only one who's not a law enforcement officer.
That's correct.
But in a way you did, because you made that transition, and we'll go through more of the biography, but you, because of, well, let me ask you this question. Because you were in a law enforcement family, did that provide the motivation for you to, after military and all of those things going on in active service, which we'll talk about in a minute, did that have an influence on you to become a prosecuting attorney?
No, yes and no. I believe that when I went to law school, I had working for a Batavia distribution company. I was originally interested in labor law. And the reason for that was I had been in contract negotiations with the Teamsters over several periods, had resolved various issues, employment issues. So that was what I really kind of wanted to do. But when I graduated, there wasn't really a position available for me. But there was a position out here doing law enforcement. It's something that I felt comfortable with because of growing up around policemen. I lived in a neighborhood that was all policemen and firemen. So I was grateful for the opportunity to come out here and be able to do that. So
it's an interesting comment that your first intention in the wonderful world of attorneys was labor law. That probably is going to help you a little bit here in Joliet. It's a great labor town. We've got some great people who are, many of our unions here in Joliet. All right, born and raised in Chicago, and you, because I would assume finances were probably a little tight to be able to afford to go to college, and you ended up going to the University of Illinois, I believe, UIC.
Yes, downtown Chicago.
Downtown Chicago, at the old UIC? Or
at the one that's presently downtown on Jackson and Halstead.
Yeah. But you had to get some kind of financial foundation to be able to do that.
Right. My dad was a policeman. There were 4 boys, so he worked 2 jobs, and if I wanted to go to college, I would have had to, pay for that myself. So I worked, and then I also got a ROTC partial scholarship for school that paid my tuition. So I was fortunate for that, and it afforded me the opportunity to go to school and work. And I've always had a job and gone to school. I've never not done both.
Yeah, well, that's commendable. The ROTC was Army ROTC?
Army ROTC,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
So after you graduate, you don't go down to Florida and celebrate and enjoy spring. You probably had to go somewhere where the Army needed to say hello to Jim.
Exactly. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, which is at that time home of the infantry. Now it's a combat maneuver center, so they do infantry and armors, combat arms. So I reported down there in December, and then that's where your first kind of taste of being a second lieutenant is. So I did that, and then followed up with attending Ranger School directly afterwards, and then I was assigned to the 3rd Armored Division, 148 Infantry, Gelnhausen, Germany. So that was my first duty assignment as an infantry lieutenant.
Now, the closest I have come to what I'm about to mention here is 100 years ago when there was a place called Riverview in Chicago. I went up on that parachute thing. You went to jump master school?
That's correct. I have a combat jump from Panama, and I'm also a jump master. So I'm a senior parachutist in the United States Army. So
My hands are sweating. Just the thought of that. Just the thought of it jumping out of a perfectly good plane.
that's all right. My hands were sweaty during the whole time
I'll bet.
anyway. So.
I'll bet. Well, that's for another time,
Yes.
too. We'll talk about that someday. Are you still in the reserves?
No, I am not. I've retired.
Okay.
So retired several years ago. You actually age out. You can only spend so much time in the military. It's a young man's game, so it's an up and out system. So I did 30 years as an officer, and I had a couple of years in. They had a program which was where you were in the reserves and in ROTC, and I got credit for that. So I got just about 32 years in.
When you were in active duty, though, you did see some geography out there. Let's see, in Europe and also in some of the vacation places like Guantanamo Bay and Afghanistan as
Right.
well.
And Panama as well, yes.
Oh, in Panama, okay. So again, thank you for your service. I'm going to read something here that was put out by the Castle Law. Were you a partner at Castle Law?
No, I was not. I was of counsel at
Okay.
Castle Law, so I was just an
But there was a former law firm that you were a partner.
Right. That was with Gino Fimbianti, who was an attorney, and Judge Dave Carlson. We were all law partners for a
okay.
little bit.
All right. So Castle Law comes out with experience. And now I can see where all of this comes from. Broad overview of executive level human capital, which you had in the military as well. Talent management, benefits, communicating, change, and strategic management. Skilled leader and administrator with strong training and administration and negotiation expertise. And the bottom line, they say you're a problem solver. You think all that stuff's going to help you?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I mean, sometimes I know I have all those skills, but sometimes when I read them on paper, I want to meet that guy.
Yeah.
So, but I can do all that. I think I bring a lot to the table here as city manager in Joliet. Again, I'm fortunate to have this job. I think I'm the right person at the right time, and I'm an agent of change. There are so many things happening here as we try to get the city moving forward into the the 21st century here, and we're moving it forward. We need to keep moving forward. There's just such great opportunity here. I believe that the city of Joliet is going to be the economic engine for not only Will County, but for the state as well going forward. This is the land of opportunity. If you don't have a job in Joliet, it's because you don't want one.
Right.
And I believe that.
Yeah, I've talked to the realtors who are actually crying a river because they can't find enough houses for
Right.
people. And they are building and developing all over Will County, from Joliet to Plainfield, et cetera. We had the housing booming a few years ago.
Right.
And it slowed down, but now it's going to start up again because Will County, according to the Will County Economic Development, John Gruling's group,
Right.
has put out information about how affordable housing and the industry and jobs, et cetera, are available. Like you say, if you don't have a job in Joliet, you don't want to work.
Right.
So there's opportunities out there. we talked before airtime. I was mentioning about I can't remember this many candidates vying for city council at large, I think, is the positions that are available. And I said 13, but I was corrected by you because you dropped out.
That's correct.
And so now the question is, why in the first place were you running for city council?
Well, I believe, like I said earlier, I believe in the city. I believe this is a great opportunity. I was fortunate enough to be for a while on the planning commission, so I was able to see and get an inside peek as to the direction that the city is headed. I like where it's going. I believe that we're on the right track, and I wanted to be part of that continued success. I thought that by being a member of the city council, I could help facilitate that. I think that each city council member has an outside influence because we don't have 50 city council members. We have very few, and they have a lot of their votes. Each and every one of them is critical to getting things done. So you're able to really have an influence on moving things forward.
Yeah. Sometime this week, or maybe it was last week or next week, my interview with Mike Turk will be kind of give you kind of unpacks what it takes to be a city councilman here in Joliet. I think 35 years with Mike Turk, so he had a lot of experience and stories to tell. So I hope you catch that one as well, because it's sort of part-time, but when you add up all the committees and subcommittees and meetings that you have to and the phone calls you get, well, I don't care what party you're from or whatever. I've always said this. Hats off and kudos and high fives to elected officials, because they got to campaign first of all, and then they got to govern.
Right. I think that the demands put on our city council members are tremendous. My hat's off to Councilman Turk. I know that he's retiring. He's not going to run anymore, and he's stepping away at this point. And it's just what a reflection, what a great career, what an asset he's been to the city of Joliet, and the things that he's done and seen. I'm looking forward to seeing the interview. You can't do this job as city manager without people like Councilman Turk, who help guide you and show you the ropes and say, here's what this is why we're here where we're at. And so it gives you a lot of the history about where we've been and hopefully where we're going. So,
did you have a conversation of sorts with the outgoing great guy that helped us out, the city manager Hawk?
No, actually, I didn't get much of I came in on a Monday. I was hoping that I might get a little bit of an overlap, but he more or less left that day, the next day, left me a note, a couple of notes, and
it's like the president.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. I got the city manager letter, right? So about different things that were presently ongoing.
So what was it like? I saw this on cable when you were brought up. You're on the podium, and the city council members are kind of interviewing you. What preparation, if any, did you do for that, and what was it like?
Well, it's always you're never quite sure, as even this interview, what somebody's going to ask you. All you can do is be honest, and I will not. It's never my intent to mislead anybody, and so I just went over my resume. Because you want to make sure that you're not forgetting something or somebody doesn't ask you about something. So I always review my resume before I go into a process like that, and then just be honest and open and tell them what I plan to do and how I plan to get there. I'm a make it happen kind of person. You can let it happen, watch it happen, or make it happen, and we need to make things happen here in Joliet. Yeah. So,
just for clarification, you're coming from Castle Law. This is a full-time position. You're not with Castle Law anymore,
No, I am not.
Right?
No.
This is a clarification for folks out
there. No, I am not. I'm no longer with that law firm. So
there's a difference between the city management versus mayoral. I mean, all our mayors, for the history of Joliet, I I don't call it part-time because it's not really part-time, but they all had jobs and other things that they were doing besides this, as our current mayor does as
Right.
well.
This is a full-time position. This is not something that allows you to have outside employment. I put in a lot of hours. I continue to, and will continue to do that till we get to where we're going and things are running a lot smoother. The mayor and the city council members are part-time. It's not a full-time job for them, although I think that, again, there's so much happening in Joliet, it has almost become a full-time position for them to be able to do the things that we need to do to get done. Again, you touched on it, the committees that they're on. It's just so much time, and we don't pay them very, very much money, to be honest with you, for a part-time job. I think they get like $19,000 a year, which, covers their expenses because they're here on Mondays, Tuesdays, then they have their committee meetings, they're meeting with constituents. I'm hoping at some point to get some offices for them so that they can meet their constituents. Right now, if you want to meet with your constituent, there's no place to meet. And I think the city of Joliet, the citizens deserve to have a place to come and sit down in an office and meet with their elected representatives, other than trying to meet them on the street or at somebody's house. We need to be more professional in the way we conduct ourselves. So that's on my list of things to get done, and I'm hoping to get that done.
Yeah. Speaking of that topic, if you're I don't know, the wide shot or whatever, you see a lot of white walls here. And because your office and the council room just down the hallway are being renovated and updated. And you made a comment to me about that, and because Joliet, as you well know now, there are a lot of multi-million-dollar negotiations, agreements, contracts that come before you and committees, and you just want to have a work on that first impression on those people.
Right. When folks come in, they make an assessment. Just like when you meet an individual, you always are making that very first impression. And you only get one chance to do that. So I believe that by updating these offices, the mayor's offices, that when people come in, these multi-million-dollar corporations, and they know that we're a professional organization, we conduct ourselves in a professional manner, they're going to be treated professionally, and we're going to work on their projects. Previously, there hadn't even been in the conference room, there wasn't even a conference table. So we moved one in temporarily. We're going to get a much larger one. We're updating this thing, and we're moving forward. It's going to happen, and I think that it needs to reflect what really the city of Joliet has become, this economic powerhouse.
It is the capital of Will County.
It is the capital, the county seat.
Yeah, county seat. First week on the job, what was that like?
Well, it's always interesting because, people want to get to know you. The various city employees are trying to get to know you. You're trying to get to know them and figure out who's doing what and taking a look at the wiring diagrams. Are we properly aligned? Are we going to make some changes here? How do we conduct business? Is this the best way to conduct business? That evaluation is ongoing. I'm still doing some of that. But I've been very pleased with the staff in terms of the responsiveness to the requests that I've had. We are moving forward. And if you're not going to be an agent of change, then you probably don't need to be here. If you're just here to just go to work and go home and that's it, no, Joliet's changing. We need to bring this place, this organization into the future. And we're going to do that. And we're going to make it a great place to live and work and to be a citizen of Joliet.
How's your relationship with the new police chief? As really historic, and it had to be some input from you in terms of the changes made in the police department.
Well, yes. Well, there was a rift there, I believe, between the city and the police department as to how that relationship works. It's like the military. Military subservient to your elected officials, and that's the same way here. And I think that we needed to make sure that that's reinforced, that the police department is not above their elected officials in any way, shape, or form. And I think that we had some issues with that. And I think that those have been put to rest, so I'm grateful to have that going forward.
You've got a couple of issues, and then we can talk about others.
Sure.
But it's in now, I guess it's in the Sun-Times and the Chicago Tribune and the Chicago radio stations. It's gone from the local here at WJOL to the Patch to the Herald News, is the North Point issue that is, I guess, gaining momentum in terms of recognition. You have Bobby Rush saying under no circumstances is he going to change his mind on North Point. And then you have others who say, well, we got to take another look at this. Where does the city manager of Joliet, where are you at with this?
Well,
or have you
I
arrived at a part?
No, I support the vote, certainly, that the city council took on this. North Point's going to happen by hook or by crook. The city of Joliet is blessed by its geography as to where we're at in terms of having the largest inland port in the United States. We have a huge intermodal facility here. I believe that people have been misled in terms of the traffic conditions. There's going to be a closed loop system that will actually help alleviate some of the traffic. We've been done a disservice by some of our neighbors. They closed some roads down so that truck traffic would increase into Joliet and not to their towns. You know, often you hear about, you know, Joliet being a good neighbor, but some of our neighbors haven't been very good to Joliet, and that's a shame. We believe that this is the right project for Joliet. We believe it's an excellent opportunity to bring jobs and economic revenue to the city. This is the kind of thing that we need to do, and I would hope that people would take a hard look. There's a lot of disinformation, a lot of misinformation from various stakeholders who are dead set against this, that have told some just out. I mean, one of the latest ones was that they're going to build the bridge directly over the Abraham Lincoln Cemetery. It couldn't be further from the truth. My father, you know, they talk about trucks going in there. North Point has not had one truck in any, North Point isn't built, and yet they point to all these trucks going through it, and they act as though that's North Point. It's not. That's not North Point. That's because the road, Roy Strom, was closed by the Village of Elwood and the Illinois Department of Transportation. So when trucks go to look to take a shortcut, they look at Abraham Lincoln Cemetery. And there are signs there that do that. North Point has offered to build a turnaround for the cemetery to make it easier for those trucks that are lost or for whatever reason,
right,
to be able to do that. So, but North Point has not, there's not one truck on the road from North Point, not one. And we believe that there's an adequate plan to address the traffic issues going to be in place. And so I'm looking forward to having this done as quickly as possible and getting it rolling.
Your timing of coming to Joliet, with first North Point, but you also have, what you folks out there will notice as a far bigger, larger, important issue, and that is, of course, the water issue here in Joliet. And it's an issue that really is decades. So people have been talking about this and not doing much about it, but knowing that the aquifers were not going to last forever. And now it's here, and no one's kicking the ball down the road on this.
No, we have to take that issue head on. We have some challenges here in terms of infrastructure to support getting water from Lake Michigan. And that you can see just from the recent events where we've had water main breaks that a lot of that money that Joliet gets, you know, goes under the streets and you don't see it. And that's the kind of things that we need to address to make sure that we aren't losing water that we're getting from Lake Michigan here. That's part of the deal, is to get us under that 3% of water seepage or loss. I'm looking forward to getting water from Lake Michigan. I believe that is absolutely without a doubt the solution to our problem. And it's just not Joliet's problem, it's a regional problem.
Sure.
We all of us take water from that aquifer, and so we're looking to partner with some of our neighbors here to be able to reduce the cost over the long term of this, because eventually that aquifer is going to go dry. And you know, if politicians don't have the vision to be able to see that they have to hook into this water system, it's better to do it now than be a Johnny-come-lately.
Right.
Share our vision for the future. Share our vision for how water should be delivered to the citizens. I don't believe in my heart that I believe delivering water to the citizens is an inherently governmental function. I don't believe it should be privatized. And I will not, I will fight that tooth and nail, because I don't believe that, I'm not saying a private company can't do that. I'm just saying I believe that a government entity doing it is much better, safer, and cheaper for the citizens.
Observation is about water, but not about that water. Don't you find it amazing that in the month of February, it was miserable weather, horrible temperatures, and 1.5 tons of snow? It's now melted with no flooding. When you realize, people were talking about, wait a minute, when this snow melts, we're going to have water everywhere. And so that also speaks to the infrastructure. I know that when I was talking with Mike Turk and a few other council members, going back to when the casinos were providing $3 million a month, $3 million a month to Joliet. And some of that stuff went to schools, and some of that money was distributed, but the bulk of it, I believe, was for infrastructure.
Right. They did spend, fortunately, they did spend a large amount of that money on infrastructure. But when you look back and realize that infrastructure is 20 years old.
Yeah.
And so
forget about
yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah. It's like oftentimes you look at it, you say, oh my God, I need a new roof on my house. It seems like I just replaced it.
Where did 15 years go?
Yeah, exactly. Where did that time go?
The other issues that would be a priority to you. You've said this a couple of times during the interview, there's a lot of things going on in Joliet. Let's see, where are we at? You will probably be seeing and hearing the mayor's state of the city address here in a week or so. Maybe even the same time this is on, could be. We won't take away anything from the mayor's speech, but can you give a couple of highlights of what you would look at in the future for Joliet? You can't do too much of the past, you weren't here.
Right.
But looking forward.
Looking forward, some of the things that I'd like to see is I certainly want to see a convention center built here in Joliet. I believe that we are located close enough to some of the entertainment that we have here. We fail to take or advantage or leverage that we have 2 casinos in Joliet. That we have the ability to have folks come down here and enjoy themselves and have meetings. I believe that once the pandemic is done, I believe there's going to be a pent-up demand for people to get out and socialize and to go places. So I want to be able to leverage that and take advantage of that. I also would like to, and this is much further down the road, is much further out west, is I'd like to see an airport built. I believe initially it could be for freight, to support some of the distribution facilities that are out here, but hopefully if we build it and we get that freight moving in and out of here, we can also start to hopefully attract some commercial aviation. Again, is that time now? No, the pandemic and tourism is down all over the place, but it's a thought for the future. This is a plan that we need to start thinking about as we move forward.
Yeah. How has your experience in the military helped you with this job so far?
Well, there's a couple of things. One is I'm being results oriented. That you got to get things done. I don't kick the can down the road. I try to take things head on and resolve those issues. I don't believe that you do anybody a service by just delaying something on and on and on. I think that I'm also very thoughtful, and I go through a decision-making process of, is this the right thing to do? Have I taken all the various aspects into consideration before I make a decision? And also, what are the secondary and tertiary effects of that decision? It's just because I make this decision, it's also going to have ancillary effects on other other projects. The other thing is that I was fortunate when I was at the Pentagon. I had a very similar role to this. I was supported, because that's what this job is, right? It's a budget. But I supported current operations, information operations, asymmetric warfare group, the Rapid Equipment and Fielding Force, electronic warfare, personal recovery, continuing operations, reserves mobilization, readiness, and I know I'm forgetting, counter IED, force protection. So those are some of the organizations that I supported, and each of those had also a full colonel in charge of theirs, and we would get together and we talk about our problems and how I could support them to make them successful. That's my job, is to make the city council and the mayor, that's how I look at it. I work for them, they work for the people, and I want to make sure that they're successful. So I'm completely fine with that. I understand that relationship, and I expect my staff to support me to be able to make their vision for the city of Joliet a reality.
Yeah.
So
We've been talking with Jim Capparelli, our city manager, and I'm going to give you the last words. You can talk right into that camera over there
Okay.
and talk to the people of Joliet, the residents of Joliet. And as we sign off, I want to personally thank you for the time of visiting with you. We're going to come back here when all of this is all renovated, and we'll look forward to a lot more issues. I know we haven't covered everything. I wanted this to be kind of an introductory for you and for our city manager and for myself for meeting you for the first time. And congratulations. I think when you left
Thank you.
the Army, you left with the rank of colonel.
I did, full
Right?
colonel, that's correct.
So that's not an easy task either.
No.
So I think the next step from a colonel is something you'd call general.
That's
You know,
correct.
Not the guy who sells insurance either. So, Jim Capparelli,
I just like to tell the people of Joliet, just bear with us. We're going to do a lot of great things. When you tell people you're from Joliet, you'll be really proud. And I think this is such a great place to live and to work and to play. So we're going to make all those things happen. So give us your support. You know you have mine.